Welcome to the Onstage podcast, where we interview musicians and members of the entertainment community. Well, everyone, we seem to have a problem with the sound because there's a really bad feedback in the background. But apparently, Kathy Bell goes by Ma Bell. Ma Bell. She can hear me, so everything is a-okay. Welcome,
Yeah.
everyone, to another Onstage podcast. We have a special guest. We have Kathy Ma Bell, Sheridan's own Kathy Bell. She's one of the best kept secrets in Hamilton County. She's a singer, songwriter, and karaoke DJ. I'd like to hear about that. And her accolades include 2 singles that have been downloaded enough to qualify as platinum. And we're going to let her talk about herself. But I want to mention that I just heard one of her new songs called My Country's Get Up and Go Go. Sure got up and went. Really good song. I heard it. It's located at the Ma Bell at Fishing Blues, but I think we'll wait till that song comes out. So, Kathy or Ma Bell, can you give us a little bit of a backstory of who you are, where you were born, and what made you want to choose music at such a time as this?
That's quite a story. I actually was born in Lebanon, Indiana, in a snowstorm. And my grandfather was a pastor, and I grew up in church. I started out by playing the piano and helping with the music department in church, and then I went on and I played a course in high school band. I had a dream from a child of being able to sing on the Opry and entertaining, but I never thought I was good enough. And I went through, fast forward, went through a lot of sickness, and I ended up taking care of everybody except for my dream. And I now have that motto, never too old to dream, because of all that. But I started getting into different costumes, and I would do competitions, and I learned that costumes was part of my score, so I became somebody different in costume. We found I become animated when the music comes on. I've been everything from ZZ Top to Lady Gaga, but we've settled into Ma Bell. Ma Bell is a clean little fun act, and she does things I talk about us in two different scenarios because she truly is her own unique person when the music comes on, and she's funny, and she doesn't even realize the things she does until she goes back and watches that footage. But that's kind of how I was in two bands, and I first found out I could actually compete without costume. I did a world karaoke contest in Las Vegas, and I placed. And so it's now I can do it with costume or without, but I become so much more fun and something totally unique when I put the costume on because you feel like people are looking at the costume and not really you, and you're just free to let it go. So yeah, it's been a fun ride. I've met a lot of interesting people, and when I go out, I think my purpose is actually to encourage people that are afraid to reach out and chase their own dreams. I've heard it so many times lately, well, I'm too old. Well, I'm here to tell you you're not. There's a place for somebody everywhere. And I've gone through a lot of knocks, and I actually tell this now. I wouldn't have dared told you before, and I don't know why now. I appreciated your prayer in the beginning. And I was going to kill myself. And it was actually music that brought me out of that. I went through so much sickness. And I wrote my first song called Oh, What a Friend. And I snapped out of what it was at that time, and I turned to music. And thus, that's why music's so important and near to my heart. And so I try to encourage people with that too, because life is so hard right now. And I think somebody always needs to know that, there's something out there for all of us. And anyway, usually I'm pretty funny. I don't know where that came from, but there it is. It's out. The cat's out of the bag. So,
Kathy, I can't imagine what you went through, knowing that your grandfather was a preacher for 57 years at the Church of God. But you literally went to play the flute and then the big bass drum in a band, which you mentioned. But how did music change your thought processes and your desire to reach out to God?
Music is Music's something that I've learned that can touch anybody in any way at any time. It's interesting how music works. It can be that slow song that'll touch you clear to the core and you'll weep, or it can be that happy one that you'll be up dancing and clapping your hands and stomping your feet and happy. So the thing I really relate to with the music is its ability to move me. And it can move me out of my comfort zone. I ended up in a rap contest in Nashville thinking I was in a country contest, but I went ahead and did it. And best thing I ever did do, that video's got 4 million views, 4,000, I think. But, um, that was probably the one time that I really stepped out of my comfort zone. And I think that's the thing about music. There's so many things you could say about music. I'm really excited for 2024 because I hope to bring a lot of surprises in 2024.
So you joined a band called the Parsons Family Band and the Spiritual Praise Band. But then you mentioned in what you mentioned earlier about you wanted to kill yourself. What was going through your mind or your life that made you want to just give it all up and just head out of town, you want to say?
I became very ill, and during that time, I threw a blood clot to my left lung, so I really shouldn't even be sitting here talking to you. Um, and I was pretty active. I was going to school to be a medical transcriptionist, and I was working two jobs. But all of a sudden, that came to a stop when I had a simple sinus surgery, and I threw a blood clot to my left lung.
Mm.
Medication then that they gave me interfered with that. Then they said because at that time I was really overweight. So I was encouraged to do bariatric surgery with many, many, many complications. I had a leak. I mean, I think I'm up to like 32 surgeries. And so at that time, because of all the illness, money was hard. I was single income. And I was so sick more than I was not sick. So it about makes me cry to talk about this. It's hard, but I feel like it's important because it's part of my life. But I went through so much that it just seemed like it was too hard. And it all seemed like it was uphill. Relationships weren't good. Um, I can't say anything was good. But what actually happened the day I wrote my first song was I wasn't even praying, but God showed up there. He said, "It's not time. I got more things for you to do." And I wrote my first song. I had my pills there ready. I was going to write my family my note, and I was sitting at the piano. And I hit a chord, and before you knew it, I had a song, and it was my first song. And that turned my whole life around to the point I can't even tell you what happened. I started going to Nashville with that first song. Other songwriters there gave me their songs to sing at the Nashville Fest. And I remember my first time in Nashville, like I'm not here. I remember my legs wouldn't even hold me up at the Red Rooster. But I met a lot of people there. I networked, and a lot of them believed in me when I couldn't. And so, and I keep, my life still does this. Today's hard, but guess what? Tomorrow's going to be better. Um, I may have 5 bad days still, but I know that if I just hang in there, there's going to be a better day around the corner. And so, yeah, music has become totally who I am, and I work very hard at it because bariatric surgery, I went through a lot of malnutrition. And so my mind don't remember lyrics as well as they should. So for me, all this, I work really hard. I sing my songs till get tired. I don't really ever get tired of them, but I'm like, geez, if I could just remember this word. And but it's been a ride that I would never give up at this point. It's like last June I told you my dream was the Opry, and I ended up in the choir with the Music City Christian Fellowship. And it was the best day ever. I know that as the curtains open, I think it was kind of like a revelation, honestly, Chris, because as I seen the lights, I couldn't believe I was there. And the lady next to me goes like this. She says, "You might want to close your mouth." All the people out there. And I just remember thinking, I don't have to be the main stage. This is pretty awesome being in 5-part harmony on this stage. And I got a lot of experiences last year. I got to sing on Loretta Lynn Ranch. And
Wow.
music has taken me a lot of places as well. It's a passion for me, but I also think it's the people I've met along the way. I've been on Kevin Shorey's show, and he's amazing. And I was at Loretta Lynn, and last year I was at the gospel, um, I think it's gospel music convention, and I met a lot of Christian artists there. And I actually think some of us are looking forward to this year because I know some of us are going to network together. And I don't think that I could get not hopeful at this point because I see too much that can go in my future. And it's not just the music really. I just think that I'm in a place where I'm happy. And it's like, bring it on. Um, I've learned that I'm tough and that it takes a little bit of tough, but I'm also very soft. And I really think with the world that's here, I wouldn't say all music. I would say that even in this world, the way things are, if you can just find what makes you happy, then you need to go for it because it can bring you up out of the dump.
That is a very amazing story, Kathy, especially the part about how a song has turned your entire life around. Um, and similar with many musicians, you are actually the only musician, not the only one that I talked to, who's literally found happiness through this and literally was able to grab hold onto your dream and sing on the Grand Osprey stage and with Loretta Lynn and joining Christian groups. Your faith in God, do you believe, has increased
Oh, yes, yes, definitely.
exponentially?
Yeah, I feel that God has a plan for my life. And I feel like this year I am the one that probably holds him back with this whole I can't, this is hard, I can't. I think for the first time this year, I know that I can go where God has for me to go, and I can do this. And sometimes it's just real, like I said, really hard. It's not a walk in the park. And everything you do musically, I think a lot of artists out there would agree. It costs money to do this, costs money to do that. And, it's like that. I think in the end, I think everything is worth everything. And so, yeah, it's been an amazing ride. And I was looking through pictures the other day and had no feeling, no, just how far that I was looking back and I seeing me do a costume with red solo cut, me literally in a red barrel with a red wig with red heels singing red solo cut. And I thought, now that's really silly, but it's silly to me, but it makes other people laugh. So, I also think that's part of it. Like, there's people that have a different, I think that's something that I don't know where it came from, probably because we're talking. I think that's the other thing that's neat to realize for any artist that's watching is that everybody has their niche. For me, my comfort's in this Ma Bell costume, but there are so many good music people out there that are afraid to chase their dream. And I find that a lot of times if I'm doing running karaoke or sometime, I try to encourage other people to sing that are even afraid to get up and sing. And there's so much talent out there that never will get discovered because they're just too afraid. And I think, and the one thing I find is I could be afraid every time I go out there, but if I let the fear hold me back, I would never go any farther. And I don't know where that came from. I think I'm trying to encourage people out there that might have a dream and are afraid to go for it.
I think you're right there, Kathy. Many people are searching for a dream but never take that first step. And I've talked to many musicians who have taken the first step and they're saying, if I hadn't do this, I wouldn't be playing a bass guitar. I wouldn't have all these singles. I wouldn't have all these albums, all because I decided I'm going to do this. And they even went as far as saying, at my age, thinking I'm too old, and look where I am now, 2 years later. But many of them, like I know one musician, she decided to just stop everything because she was putting too much money into something. She wasn't getting anything back, and she gave up. Um, can you tell me about the time, Kathy, where you knew that this is what I wanted to do? I took my step, and I know for a fact, like, what would be your Mount Everest? Where do you want to be in your life where you actually can be on top of Mount Everest and take that flag and say, I've done it? What part of your life would that be?
That that I think you know that's an interesting question that you just asked because even though I didn't entertain at the Opry, I felt that's where I was going with that while going. Forgot my new motto became okay. So I'm here, and my new motto was dream bigger. Why? Because there's always something bigger. And I think that we don't need to get settled for where we're at. Like, you make one goal, you make it, but think of your next goal. Does that make sense? I'm like, don't stop there because life's so full of opportunities. And the one thing is people will bring you down. They'll say there's people that like what I do and people that don't like what I do. And but you don't do it for people's approval. You do it for you. And but I thought that was interesting because that was the thing that thought because my goal my dream is to perform and entertain on the Opry. But if I never ever get there, I feel like I'm satisfied with whatever I make my next goal. I seem to be satisfied as long as I'm going and I'm working hard at whatever I'm doing. I don't necessarily have to be the top dog, but I think I have to keep working. And I think that the fact that I keep working so hard and I see things, we were talking about the platinums, and I was looking yesterday, and there's actually 6 platinums now. Do you think I ever thought I would be a platinum artist? No. And I think it's because of a team as well. I think you've got to find a team because people will come to you and they'll say, you can't do this, you shouldn't do this. But you get a team that is behind you and they believe in you. Those days that you go, I want to quit, somebody's going to go out there, are you silly? You've accomplished this. Why would you let that one little person take away your happiness? So I, I don't know where all this comes from, Chris, but I feel like it was kind of an inspired thing. The questions that you're leading me with, it leads me to open up, and I hope that's okay. But um, I think I really want to see people get encouraged, and I'm hoping that I can encourage people in 2024.
Well, I believe that taking that step in faith as well will lead you to where God wants you to be. Did you ever say to yourself, as you mentioned before, but do you think that you're too old? Do you think ageism was going to stop you?
No, I've had a lot of people say you're going to be going till you're 90, and I believe that I'll go till I can't. Um, it's just, and I don't let things stop me for some reason. Sometimes I can be tired, and I just like the Energizer Bunny. I'm like, one day I'm down, and next thing you know, I'm up and I'm working again, and I'm like, I just need like a breath every now and then. I'm like, okay, ready, go again. So, and I think that's kind of how we've got to be. We've got to be open to what God has for us, and you can't if you stop. And so anyway, that seems to be me, and that's one thing that my mother says all the time. She's like, I couldn't go like you go. And I had another friend says you're gonna be entertaining when you're 94. So I'm like, well, I got 34 more years, so like 30 some more years. So I plan to make the most of it.
Yeah, that's right. That reminded me of that Minnie Pearl on Hee Haw, and remember, she was
Yeah,
entertaining until she was like in her 90s as well. So that
she
was,
was amazing.
yeah, yeah,
I've been watching a lot of her, and talk about talent. That lady had talent.
yeah, definitely. Um, Kathy, I see here that you began playing the piano at the age of 10. Did you? How far did you get, or did you just suddenly stop? Right, like,
No, I actually started playing in church, and I went to nursing homes with my grandfather, and then my mom started giving me lessons, and then I bypassed her, so she started taking me down to Butler University for piano lessons, and then I learned to play by ear. I was learning all the notes and stuff when I went down there, but then eventually I went to playing by ear so that I was able to play with those bands that I played with.
yeah, terrific. Wow, I can't believe what God is doing to you. There's so much blessings in your life. And you got two singles, like we mentioned, been downloaded enough to qualify as platinum. Well done. Praise God. Um, when you were part of the Parsons family band and the spiritual praise band, can you give me an idea? What band did you like better, and did you get along with the members?
I got along with the members, and it's actually interesting. The Parsons band, um, I played keys and I did harmony for them. They were a family band. Then the band itself broke up, but they rebranded. Most of the members stayed. And spiritual praise, we did more. We traveled to Kentucky. We played on the Bell of Louisville, and and it was awesome till it broke up. And as you know, when you get a group of band members together, not everybody 100% agrees, although you would love to see them succeed and go on. Um, but those two groups just fizzled out, and but I was glad to be able to have those experiences and be able to do play with the bands and go out.
Kathy, terrific. May I ask you, what makes you laugh?
Oh, Jiminy, that don't take much to make me laugh. Um, I have a lot of funny stories myself, and a lot of times I find myself even laughing at myself, not intentionally, but just because things always tend to happen. But um, I definitely love the comedy, and to me, it's funny. It's like the music, whatever touches me. Everybody's different, and what I might think's funny, you might not think's funny. Um, But I find people laugh at my life stories. And for instance, I accidentally hit a police car when I was 17. And that wasn't the smartest thing. I would recommend nobody do that. Absolutely nobody. Well, and my mom thought that was the funniest thing. But, it's just funny. I find even when I'm in my character and the music comes on and I'm in my zone, I can laugh at most anything. I never even know what's going to trigger that laughter. I'm kind of that mischief person. Matter of fact, I put on my press kit that I made the other day that a little bit of mischief and a little bit of this and a little bit of that makes his character. So, you know, I really think laughter's just whatever can touch that funny bone in you. And one thing might be funny this time and it may not be funny the next time. You're asking some tough questions.
Well, you're not going to like this question, but what makes you angry and upset?
Oh boy. What makes me really angry? Uh, we don't, that's excluding politics, right? We're not going to talk politics. Um, I think the thing that makes me the angriest is when people don't do other people right and they're not kind, and you see this world changing that way all the time. And I don't like. I was grown up to kind of care about other people and what they think and feel, but I hate it when I see somebody that really don't care about somebody's feelings, um, and they don't care to hurt people.
Yeah, that's tough because it happens all the time.
You don't like somebody that lies to you either, right? You know, there's definitely been those times in my life where I've had friends that's told me a lie, and that makes me angry because then you can't trust that person. So
I know exactly what you mean. Exactly what you mean. How has your music evolved over the years?
it's definitely changed a lot, and it's actually kind of a funny story for me. I grew up with my dad playing the guitar and singing country, and he got him and his family was as country as they got. I had this side, the preacher, this side went to the races and played music. And it was really funny because when I was younger, I did not like his style of music. I did not like country. But now that I'm older, country's right here where it matters, way down in my soul. And I always thought he didn't like me. He didn't like me singing. And I now think that if he knew I was going to Nashville and singing country, he would be super proud. So, you know, I don't know if I answered that one right, but
Well, that's
did I
okay.
lose it?
Totally okay, Kathy. So, what about cover songs? How do you feel about cover songs? And can you countryize a Britney Spears song, or can you countryize an Elton John song?
I love all varieties of music. Now, I haven't done that, but what I have done is I've improvised like Mind Your Own Business, Hank Jr. So I think it would be really fun to maybe improvise some of those songs, like Oops, I Did It Again.
Yeah,
We
be
may
like,
try, that would be hilarious for a country
yeah,
cover.
I can imagine doing that. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oops, I did it again. Yeah, yeah. Oh no, I did it again. Oh, oh, yeah, that'd be great. That'd be great.
It's a
I
good
think you
idea.
I think you'd be very, very good at it with the I did it again. Oh, oh no, my mom. Oh, my mom's gonna, whatever,
I did a switch and
Yeah, I'm just people are gonna say, "Oh my God, not that again." Well, I'm glad that you had a friend that believed in you, and that you had to go through all this sickness, and that you wanted to off yourself. But thank God that you're here, and you're doing what you love. Um, And I'm so glad that after gathering your health back, you started going to the Songfest in Nashville, Tennessee. And then you decided to write your own songs, as you mentioned. So, where would you like to find yourself? Well, I don't want to say find yourself in 5 years because nobody knows if you're going to be here tomorrow. You always have to live in the moment. But where do you find yourself this time next year then?
well, I think one thing I would like to see is that my character goes out more. I would like to do some bigger things. And I would actually absolutely love, we're talking about this now, I would like to actually expand and maybe include some other characters in my show and make it bigger and better. And so we have plans. I have plans to do a whole lot of work in the net while I'm down. And that I guess with that whole never too old to dream, if I wasn't speaking out of context, I'll see the Opry stage in a year or two or three or four. you know. Um, but I'm like, there are so many places that you can go. You can go anywhere from like assisted living to, you know, opening for big artists. I would love to be an opening artist. I would just love to tour sometime before I get too old. Um, so maybe I think that if you say you aren't, you won't. But if you keep that little ray of hope, you might. If
I
you don't, you
told,
have to.
totally think so. Yeah, I like how that even though you're beginning late in life, it does not deter your motivation and drive. So, what do you think is the difference between motivation and drive?
I think motivation, well, drive, I think is working hard to achieve those goals that you set out. That's the way I would define that. Motivation, I think sometimes with motivation, you can get kind of bombarded and tired. So I think it's necessary every now and then just to take a little rest and then jump back in there. And I think drive and motivation kind of really go hand in hand because without motivation and drive, you're not going to see that goal or that dream that you have. So I think you need both, to be able to attain your dreams. Um, I definitely know for some people, there's people that sponsor them and they're behind them, but then there's other people that are independent that don't have some of that. So I think it's on themselves to always, number one, do their best. So you have to kind of have that whole motivation and drive to be able to be the best person that you can and to put your best talent forward. Because the one thing I've learned is when you're doing several shows and you're doing the same song, sometimes it can be repetitive. So I kind of feel like you've got to come up with your niche to make every show a little bit different. And but definitely motivation is hard sometimes when you're not feeling it. And I think that you gotta look for it and find it because you can lose that, and without the motivation, it's not going to drive you to achieve what you want to.
Why does Ma Bell have to use a costume? I mean, has Kathy Bell ever performed as this red haired, round brimmed glass lady, just Kathy Bell? Do you think there's more?
Yes, Kathy Bell has done a lot as Kathy Bell, believe it or not. Most of it in church. And when I was in the bands, I was Kathy Bell. But I also went to, like I told you, to Las Vegas, and I didn't take costume. I totally went out there as Kathy Bell, and that's when I learned that hey, I don't really have to have um, this get up. I can perform as Kathy Bell. I have no problem with that now. I've done it like at my mom's Christmas program, but um, there's things with Ma Bell that I actually identify, and it's actually very dear to my heart. Like it's hard to explain. Um, I think that Ah, really can't say that right now because I don't know. I'm thinking something, but the thoughts just aren't coming there. The answer is yes, I can most certainly perform as myself, and I have no problem with that. I'm comfortable in my own skin now. Um,
So happy to hear that.
yeah, I could easily go out tomorrow and sing a song somewhere, and I'd be fine.
So, what do you think is the worst part about songwriting and the best part about songwriting? I see here that you give me a little bit of an idea what it's like. A creative partner, Bob McGilpin, having to help you write the platinum recordings of America, She's Crying, and Freedom Truckers. What was it like to write those?
We now have written several more together, and I think, honestly, if I gave anybody advice, I think as a single songwriter, sometimes you can get stuck. And I think although I could write something by myself, and I have, oh, what a friend, I think sometimes that if you have that other person, it's like putting a puzzle together. And I think it's the hard parts when things are looking kind of mucky when you're writing something and like you're going, I'm stuck. And I could hand it to Bob. Bob is so good. He is such a good producer. And I can't take any credit for anything by myself because he's been amazing to work with. And they call him the best kept um, secret in Nashville, and he truly is. He's a doll. His wife's a doll. His dogs are dolls. But he like I can get stuck, and he just has the talent, and he can blow me away. And sometimes like that first song you just heard, I didn't know how that was going to come out. Roy August and Larry Hutchin and Travis Owen Bryan wrote that, and Travis got a hold of me and he said, will you sing this? I'm like, sure will. And I got to practice. I'm like, how's this going to go really? And but before it was over, I think that's the beautiful part of writing. You can write about anything and then take it to your producer, and they help you just make this beautiful creation. And it's like, oh, that's how that works. Because you can't see the whole picture sometimes in your mind. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't, but I think sometimes it's really nice to have the co-writer and to work with somebody that you can actually work with. I've been to producers before, and they were about taking my money, and it's a business for all of them. It really is. Um, but what I would say there is, I think it's more to have a producer that is with you too because he cares and he believes in what you're doing, and he knows he's got a good product, and he does it, he knows how to make it good. So I don't give him enough credit sometimes, but I really want to pat Bob on the back because he does a fabulous job.
Maybe we can bring Bob McGilpin onto the podcast one day.
I bet we could.
I'd be more interested in learning like the songwriting process. Is lyrics are written first, and then the melody, or melody and then the lyrics, or how does it work for you?
Everybody's different, and some songs are different for me. Like sometimes I sit at the piano and I write the lyrics with the music as I'm writing. Some people, they write the lyrics and they'll get a co-writer to put the tune. Some people can write both, and like they'll just record something like on their phone, like as they get an idea. That's why they tell you always to have a notebook so that when an idea comes to you that you can scratch it. And even though it's not a song or a poem right now, some of your poems can become songs. And but I think that for me, every song's kind of been a little bit different. Like well, America She's Crying, the one that we've got 3 platinums on. That one hit platinum 3 times. I began writing that and I got stumped and I set it aside. And then when COVID hit, I actually got COVID, and I
Hmm.
came across the lyrics once I got better and I was kind of picking up things, and I'm like, I really should finish this song. Well, I couldn't go anywhere to record it. Bob put the music to that and added things, and he recorded it, and we were able to send it out. So we sent it out with him singing it. And there's a little funny story actually about how I met Bob. Actually, um, I often think he must have chuckled when he heard my name because he seen this, and the first song I gave him was a tune called Tobacco Barn. Now this is one that should encourage everybody here because that's one of those funny stories. I was driving down to Adams, Tennessee, and I literally seen a barn smoking. And I had my friend Ruth Brown with me, and I said, Ruth, we need to call 911. That barn's smoking. Now, I should have known because I have family in the South that strip tobacco and work in that, but I wasn't even thinking. And it was actually just a tobacco bar. And she let me carry on for a while. And then she said, Kathy, Ma, that is a tobacco bar. So she said, you need to write a song about that. So she wouldn't let go and she kept pushing me. So I wrote that craziest little thing. Before you know it, my mind went wild. Couldn't think of it. That thing has a bear chasing me up a tree. It has a polecat. I can smell his scent, and it's the funniest little tune ever. So I was talking to people in Nashville. I'm like, she wants this to be a song. This is not a song. And somebody said, send that to Bob McGilpin. So I often think he must have laughed because you look at the costume, and that's the first song I ever gave him. So it would make me appear not to be a serious songwriter, right? Totally just a wild, crazy lady. And he came back and he actually made that a talking song. And I'm like, darned if it ain't a song. So I have fun with that one now. Um, but I wouldn't have ever done probably anything with that had it not been for Bob. And I am so blessed. Like I said, since then we've written several together. And and he challenges me. He makes sure I do the best I can do on any project, which I really appreciate because like I said, some people wouldn't do that. Some people would just get you in the studio and do your takes and get the job done. But he wants to put out a good product. And so I'm so thankful for that because I've recorded with people that hadn't. I started with a guy that was really good out in Indiana, but I started recording in Nashville, and I love that whole studio effect.
I like listening to stories like that. Regarding Bob McGilpin, who's a singer and songwriter and a producer. Um, so, what other songs has he written apart from yourself? Like
He's written some songs with Anne Marie Picerno. He's written with Barb.
Anne Murray, the Canadian singer.
No, Anne Marie from Nashville, Picerno.
Oh, okay.
Um, Bob's done a lot of stuff. Um, Back in the day, he was known for disco, and he actually had some Billboard hits himself. Um, I'm thinking "Sexy Thing" and "Superstar" was two of his Billboard hits, and so he has had a lot of success. And now he does projects with everybody all around the country. And but I'm thinking, I mean, I don't know who all Bob's worked with, but I know that he is busy, and I know he does a lot for indie artists, which is amazing.
That's excellent. I love those stories. I want to relate to you about a tour I took of our Metalworks, which is just like up the street here, and musicians like Drake and David Bowie and Prince, many well known, had recorded there. And when I was looking at this photo of Bob, with the blue baseball hat, his whole like sound thing there, that's I saw that actually during the tour, and that's something from the '70s, and they still work. And I believe I may have an interview with one of the guys like Bob Gilpin, our own Canadian type Bob Gilpin, who will actually show me how what all this does, which is going to be interesting. I find your story quite a blessing and very
Thank you.
inspirational, Kathy. Amazing. So I want to go back to like for karaoke DJ. Can you give us a little bit of idea what that's all about?
Yeah, that's a funny story. Several things happened. As you know, I was coming out of the sickness, and I always from honestly, if I went back to my childhood, I got the dream of the Opry from sitting outside the Opry with my dad. I remember looking at him. We went to Opryland and played on all the amusement stuff after the show, Hee Haw show. I was like, I want to be on that stage. Well, fast forward, I never thought that I could do what I'm doing now. So after I started coming through all of the illnesses, one day, my sister's friend, Robin Kersey Peters, she often reminds me, I was working the flea market. I had taken stuff there to sell, and she called me, and she called me, and she called me, and she said, Kathy, they're having a contest here, and a karaoke contest, and I think you can make it. And I'm like, no, I really don't think I can. I just had denture work, and I had to tell her no 4 times, and then she wasn't hearing it. She says, I think you can take it. So I said, okay. So I went and I advanced to the next round, and then I learned that costume became part of my get up. So I started just getting wild, like with old time rock and roll. The things that really moved me would move the crowd. And I learned that I had a lot of fun entertaining. Well, we'll fast forward there a little bit. So then there was another karaoke contest. So I went and I took Lady Gaga costume there. Um, yeah, I about got killed. I had this lace thing and these heels like this tall, and I about fell. And I just kept on going. I stumbled and I gained myself, and um, so the DJ there seen something in me, Tammy Lynn, and she says, "I think you got something." But it was kind of like I've always wanted to do stuff like you're doing. But so she goes, "I see something there, but I'm not sure you can do it. But hey, I need help." So she started letting me go and coaching me on the mic, and before you know it, I was running my own karaoke show. And now, 13 years later, I DJ weddings, I do festivals and school dances and all that stuff. So, um, it's
Amazing.
like fun, yeah.
It's called the Kattin Round Mobile DJ and Karaoke Services. Wow, that's a long name.
It is. Well, and now I'm doing some work with Wedding DJs of Indiana. So, um,
Well, we'll
that's
link
actually,
all that down below. We'll link your all the information we need so people can contact you who are in Indiana and see maybe they want to hire you, Cat and Round Mobile DJ and Karaoke Services for wedding. Try to get some business from you, and um,
yeah, thank
but
you.
go on, continue your nice
Um,
story.
Yeah, well, and I think that's it. I primarily stick with like a lot of weddings now and family plain fun. But I'm hoping next year to do a lot more of my character and go out a lot more. I'm working on something I hope that will be really neat. And the goal is to perform more now that I've got the confidence and I'm more comfortable in my skin. And so that's what I would really love to do. If there are churches and festivals and places that would like me to come, I would love to do that.
Yeah, this is a great story that I'm hearing from you because I actually, and people are going to be saying, not this again, Chris, shut up. Well, I'm going to say it again, audience. Okay. I'm a tenor vocalist and I have performed at big venues down here. And I want to go back into that again. And I don't want to say ageism because I am older than you think. And I want to be able to step forward. I want to find myself a nice duet partner and start singing a lot of Italian opera
Oh,
and
that'd be awesome.
learning from each other. And this is the year I actually want to learn the bass guitar. I want to do that. I don't want to say, well, I'm like, I wanted to do all this years ago. So why aren't you doing it? So why is this year any different? But your story inspired me that I want to do this because I know that you took that leap of faith, you went forward, and look where you are now. You are this generation's mini pearl, and your
Oh,
songs are fantastic. I love that. And everyone, actually, I'm going to mention it again. The song is called My Country's Get Up and Go, Sure Got Up and Went. It's located at the Mobile Fishing Blues YouTube channel. I don't know if she's going to be releasing that soon, but that's pretty good.
we
And
will
all,
be.
yeah, So I really like the name of these songs. Oh, What a Friend, Fishing Blues, and that's your Ma Bell's theme song, Break the Ice. Um, I know that everyone says that there's a story behind their songs, an experience. And one of these I'm going to mention, I want you to tell me or tell us um, what the inspiration is behind the song Break the Ice.
That's a good one. And that's probably the best one you could have asked. There was another music partner that I would go out and we would shoot. He knew how to shoot videos and stuff, um, and he kind of was following me going to Nashville and stuff. So we became friends. He was from my town, and it ended up that I fell for him, but I didn't know how to tell him. And so I wrote this song, and it's all about what I was feeling like. Can we still be friends? And we are still friends. We're not probably as close friends because you're always scared to tell that one person how you feel.
Hmm.
And for me, I don't say things well, but I write them better. And so that's how I told him. I wrote this song and I sent it to him. It's a really mellow. I love the song, and luckily we're still friends.
So I take it you're not the type of person that actually give names in a song. For instance, Amanda, and there's songs out there that are written that have the actual person. So this song, Break the Ice, doesn't actually have their name in it, right?
No, no, and I wouldn't be opposed to doing that. I think on a song like Break the Ice, though, I probably ought to ask the person before I put their name in it because it's sure got a lot of feeling in it. And it's funny, I've sang that out and people can relate to that song even, but um, I think that, yeah, I certainly think you could make up a name and put it in there. But, it's talking about sitting here all alone tonight, wondering how am I going to tell him? And so that's that story.
That's awesome. So what about Talking to the Wind, written by Amy Bell?
That is my mother,
Hmm.
and that was her first song. And honestly, it stayed on the Airplay Express chart for a while.
Mm.
Um, and I'd like to know, I think that came from, I've heard her say it a lot to us, like especially like my dad, my stepdad, like, you're not listening to me. And I think that's a lot what that song is there. I think a lot of people feel that way too. Like you could talk, but are they listening? And that's kind of what that song's about. I just feel like I'm talking to the wind.
I'm talking to the wall. Hello, can you hear me?
Well,
Sorry, I'm on my phone. Hello, we're on our first date. Oh, sorry. Yeah, yeah. What was that you asked? I asked you if you're an iPhone or an Android person, but I see you're an iPhone person. So next question. How about the song "I Don't Know and I Don't Care," co-written with Danny Hardin? First of all, who's Danny Hardin, and what is this
Danny,
one? What experience is this?
Danny, Danny is a very, very special friend. He's kept me out of so much trouble in Nashville. Danny was one of my first friends at the Songwriters Festival. And I would work at the festival alongside of him, and he'd introduce me to people. And he actually showed me all about what Nashville was about. He took me to the Hall of Fame and all down Music Row and told me stories upon stories upon stories. We're still friends. We still go to dinner. We still talk on the phone. Um, very, very, very dear person to me in my heart. And but that song he had written, and I went and put music and maybe tweaked a few words, but he gave it to me to co-write it. And that song got me in trouble, by the way. It's a racy tune, and I
Hmm.
was driving down the highway going to my aunt's funeral practice, and that song got pulled over by the police, and the police says, "Can I ask you why you're driving so fast?" And I said, "I'm practicing." He says, "What are you practicing?" "I don't know and I don't care." And I didn't realize how that sounded to him. He said, "What?" I said, "I don't know and I don't care." Oh. I played him a little bit of the tune and he let me off, but he said, "Don't be practicing and driving."
Wow, that's amazing. So, Kathy, who do you think were the most influential people or mentors who guided you during the early stages of your journey?
I would say Tammy Lynn that believed in me enough to help me be a DJ for sure. I would say Rhonda Percy, who actually pushed me to do what I didn't want to do, and I do that a lot anymore. I excel the boundaries because even if it's not my idea, it's part of the character and the work that I've done. And but definitely my mother, she's gone along for the ride. And my friend Ruth Brown in Nashville, she's put up with me for a long time. Ever since I went to Nashville, she's kept me out of a lot of trouble, going places I shouldn't, recording with people I shouldn't. And I stayed with her and still stay with her sometimes when I go to Nashville. Me and my mom, when mom goes, we get a hotel, but when I go to her house. And um, she's made connections. She actually is part of responsibility for Ma Bell as well as my sister-in-law. My sister-in-law came up with a hat, and then Ruth and I kind of put the outfit together. We did this for the picture of Fish and Blues, and then I ended up performing for a benefit, and then this kind of stuck around for a while. But um, man, I could go on forever. My grandfather, who when he was here mentored me a lot, and pushed me to learn the piano when I didn't want to practice. He'd push me. My mom would push me, you know, and I wouldn't know how to play piano if they didn't make me go on. So there's so many people that I have to look up. I have to even say my producer Bob, he believes in me, and Roy August, who's written this song, um, "My Country's Get Up and Go," the last one, he believes that 2024 can be a good year for me. And so there's just so many people. There's that have been behind what I do. I had friends when I first started going to Nashville. They sacrificed, they gave me money to be able to go because I've always not had a big pocket. And there's always been somebody behind me. My sister in law, she helped make some first CDs when I couldn't afford to make CDs. And there's just been so many people behind me pushing me, and you're not going to quit. You're not going to quit. Keep going. So, but those are the people, when I first started going there, I stayed with the Schrockmans and they were so good to me. And, the list could go on and on, but those are the main people. I'm like, if I know I'm forgetting somebody, that it's a team. And, lately even the co-writer on Christmas in the Country, Barb Brockhoff, I met her working the polls. And she wrote that song. She said, "Can I write you a song? Best song, Christmas song I've ever sang in my life." And
Wow.
she's behind me. We had a meeting like, what can we do to help you make your dreams? And I think that's at this point, that's what you need. Like when you get to the point you could see the dreams, then you need people to say, okay, how do we do this? Because for me, I would be so overwhelmed how to even go forward with what I want to plan this year. I got big things planned, big goals. Um, but how can you do it without a support system? I think you can't. Because on those hard days, you'll say, "I want to quit."
Hmm.
Maybe the worst thing you ever did.
I think you're right. Um, but you said doing what you're doing, being a musician, being Ma Bell, making people laugh, brings you joy and
Mhm.
happiness. Well, what other activities or hobbies bring you the most joy and fulfillment outside of your
I
music?
like to fish.
Oh, yeah. Big
This
fish.
isn't a joke. I do love to fish.
Wow.
I like to catch the biggest one when I can. Um, it don't always work. Ruth always gets a bigger one. Um, I like to, believe it or not, I used to like to roller skate, but last year I got on them and I was a little shaky, so I'm not sure about that anymore. I like to look at animals. I love to look at scenery. Like when I go to different places, like where I went to Mexico and seen the pyramids and I was in heaven. I learned a lot about different culture, went to Nicaragua, Florida, the ocean,
Wow,
Tennessee, the mountains. You know, for me, it's just experiencing life, really. And
it's amazing.
every day can be different, but I think for me, it's just experience. Like when things are really, I like challenges. If you throw me a challenge, you can bet that motivation and drive's going to kick in really quick. Um, I don't know why I'm that way, but I do like to be challenged. I don't like things to be easy. And and then sometimes you'll hear me say I wish things were easy. Um, but yeah, I was trying to think. Music's a big one now, but um, there's so much I like to do. Hang around my friends. I like to cook. Um, what else is there? I
Is
think
there
that's the big.
is there anything that maybe on your own bucket list that you would really like to fulfill and check off?
I would love to go to Alaska or Hawaii.
Really?
Uh-huh.
Why is that?
Well, I think Hawaii, I've always wanted to go to Hawaii because I feel like it's just absolutely beautiful from pictures I've seen. Alaska, I think it's the same thing, but I'm a little iffy because I know it's cold and I don't like the cold. Um, but I like to travel, and there again, I like to see things. And I think that's something else about that I've learned too. There's a lot of things that because money does limit what I can do, but what I always do is somebody anytime can say you want to, and I'll say yes, and I'll figure out how I'm going to make it happen later. So, and I think that's why I'll achieve my dreams because I'll always say I will, I can, and then if it don't happen, it don't happen. But at least I've said I've made a plan and I'm going to try. But I don't know. There's so many things that I still would like to do in life. Um, I like to water ski, but I don't think I'm at the age to do that anymore either. Um,
I don't know. I've seen a
but
93-year-old gymnast doing all the stuff a 16 or 17-year-old gymnast does.
uh,
So,
I love to dance. I absolutely love to dance. That's why music moves me. Um, I don't know. There's so much. I don't even. I guess that's a hard question because I think if I'm a person, if you challenge me, if you told me tomorrow and we were out and there was a zip line and you said want a zip line, I'd be the first one to get up there. I might think twice after I get up there, but I like I said, I like challenges and I like to have fun. So when fun presents itself, you can bet I'm probably going to try if it's not too dangerous.
yeah. I remember this epitaph I saw. It said you're standing there and you're looking and you're reading. It says, "I was once where you are. You will soon be where I am now."
Oh
What would
wow.
what would you like to have on your epitaph? People look and say, "Wow, she was quite something."
Well, maybe something similar to what you just said. She didn't think she could do it, but she did.
I'd be standing there looking at it thinking, "Wow, amazing." That's awesome. I like that
Yeah.
answer. Um, Before we close the stream, I have a couple more questions. Is there a particular life lesson you learned that you would like to pass on to others?
Oh boy. Life lessons. That's a tough one. I think there's so many lessons in life that you can learn. Um, I still go back to being kind to one another. Um, Even when you don't feel like it and you feel like you're losing your cool, you know, I think that would be one of the best because even the nicest person can lose their cool sometimes, but shouldn't. And maybe too, maybe going along with some of that where we're going there would be that when things get hard, focus on something else. Like in my case, it's music. Um, but life lessons, I mean, I don't think there's a day that goes by that I don't learn a lesson. For instance, pay your bills because they'll come back and haunt you. You learn that early, right?
Yeah.
It's like baby steps. I think that was such a tough question. It was well thought out on your part because I think if you go one day and you don't learn something, that would be kind of rare.
Yeah.
Like in my case today, the lesson I learned today is before you take something to Office Depot, make sure it's right before you start copying a bunch of stuff. Make sure you've got it right before you say I want 40 questions because if you don't, you're going to pay for it. Same thing I think in everyday life. You know, you make mistakes. You either
Yeah.
learn from them or you
I,
don't.
I remember the day one of my bosses had ordered business cards for himself. They finally appeared. They showed up on his desk, and we opened it up and we looked at it. We started laughing because they spelt his name wrong. So you got to watch and make
I,
sure everything is correct. I totally agree with you. Um, Thank you so much, Kathy Mabel, for giving us the opportunity to speak to you. Um, can you give a word of advice to all the up and coming Ma Bells and Pa Bells out there who want to do what you're doing?
I most certainly can. Um, First thing is take it step by step, make your goals. And so what if you don't make a goal, but at least you've got it down in front of you and you know what you're working on. That would be the first time. Make your list of your goals and then work on those goals. And then some people have no problem of making their goals on themselves. But again, I think the buddy system, you have a support system because some things are harder than others. Um, But I would just say take everything in step. And when you know what you want to do, think of how am I going to do it? I mean, because a lot of times you don't just jump in and write a hit song. You don't just jump in and you hit stardom. And you know what? It's okay. And sometimes you're going to mess up. Sometimes I have saying my wrong words. That's my biggest fear when I hit the stage. Sometimes you're going to make a mistake, and 9 times out of 10, it's not going to be your mistake they remember. It's going to be how you handle it. Um, and I'll give you an example of that. I learned early on from piano recitals, the show must go on. And I did a competition where I literally dressed like, what's her name, Medea, and was doing rap. And in the middle of my performance, I dropped my drawers. Now, I could have stepped out of them and I could have walked off the stage and been humiliated. I didn't. I started making up my own words because I couldn't follow the karaoke screen. Best show ever. It's probably one of my most memorable, but there's you're going to make mistakes, you're going to fall, and you're going to think I can't. And that's okay. You get back up on that horse and you make a new goal. That
Wow.
one didn't. You do a show. This didn't work in this show. Okay, guess what? Next time, won't put that in my show. I'll come up with something different. I'll make this work. What can I do to make people want me at their in their venues? And the biggest piece of advice when you start doing shows, and I'm learning this as I go. This is a new piece of advice. Find out who your audience is. What ages are in the audience? Well, for instance, if you go to an assisted living, a lot of times they don't care how much you talk or tell a joke in between. So kind of geared towards your audience and give them what they want. And, not every audience, not every crowd's going to like what you do. Not everybody out there likes what I do. And I think Lady Gaga, although I don't watch her a lot, I think I seen her say it the best in one of her podcasts. She was ready to quit. And one day she walked out on the stage because people thought she was weird with the costumes. And I never will forget her saying, I wanted to quit. And then I walked out and there was all these people going nuts. Well, I don't do it for the ones that don't like me. Do it to the ones that are going to embrace your talent. And that's where I talk the buddy system, the support group as well. Because you don't, if somebody is going to tell you you're not good enough, then I mean, I think you've got to listen to complaints so that you can readjust. But I don't think you need to focus on those. I've been told that 100 times, and I've been bad about that. I think that's what stopped me for a long time. I think it stopped me thinking I'm not good enough and believing what people told me. So that's the best advice I could have. And then, like at any time, you can go to my Facebook if you need me as a support system. I'll be there for you. And
It's amazing.
still need one.
That's true. And another word of advice: make sure that when you put these things in, they're actually in the right ear. All this time, I had them in the wrong ear. Okay, now you're coming through nice and clear.
I
um,
wanted to tell you too, Chris, before I forget, thank
just
you
kidding.
for having me on.
You're very
Thank
welcome.
you have done an excellent interview, and I wished, there's people that you really enjoy interview. It made me actually kind of think, and you challenged me, and I want to say thank you for that.
You're very welcome. I appreciate that, Kathy, and I'm very happy that it turned out because of all the problems you're going through, in and out, logging in, logging out, getting kicked out. Finally,
We
finally, we're
did,
here, and the interview's done. Woohoo! I love it.
woohoo, we got
This,
her done.
this should be
Yeah,
this should be a song. Let's call it the Problem Podcast. In and out in brackets.
that actually is an excellent idea for my character because I could say I lived it. Although I'm learning this stuff, it's not easy for an old gal. It's like teaching an old horse new tricks. That isn't
That's it.
how that goes, but it's close.
Everyone, Kathy Bell goes by the name of Ma Bell. Everything will be linked down below. Wait right there, Kathy, and we're going to end the stream. Okay, everyone. Thank you for joining us and watching this amazing, inspirational lady. And we're going to say goodbye.
Bye.